You're listening to the official Reformed Stoic podcast, covering politics, philosophy, theology, conspiracy theories. I'm ready to get to the bottom of this life. Are you? Join Wolfgang, Sketty Squad, Purity Gang, as we strive to take dominion over this dying planet. I am Reformed Stoic, and this is my podcast. All right. How we doing today? That's right. Hope everybody's having a good day today. Another rainy day here in Kodiak. Anybody check out that Durian Rider video I posted yesterday? I was having a good laugh to myself about that. Chatty! I don't know if anybody watched that video. I don't necessarily think it was great advice. He's basically just bragging about how much of a Chad he is. But he makes a good point. You know, if a girl's not interested in you, she's just not interested in you, and you're not really going to be able to do anything about it. But I think, I don't know. On one hand, it's good advice. It's like, yeah, if she's not interested, you can't force it. But on the other hand, it's like, well, gee, what if girls are like never interested? Well, his dating advice is basically like, I'm Chad, and if a girl's not interested in me, I just don't go for her. And tons of girls are interested in me, brah. Have you considered going high-carb vegan, mate? So today I decided to build the podcast before my short abs workout, which was a very good idea. I spent a good amount of time trying to craft this one. I'll tell you what, I was telling you guys it would be a good idea to go over all the presidents from FDR until now. It's really difficult to find stuff that I feel like we're allowed to watch for presidents. Everything president-related seems to just be copywritten. That's what's up, Duke. As a 22-year-old man, let's get it. We're becoming men here. We're already men. We're becoming better men. So yeah, today we're going over President Harry Truman. And, on the days we cover a president, I like to do like a related topic from the time. He is the man who dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. So we're going to learn a little bit about the atomic bomb. And then for Christianity, you know, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if we could watch this 27-minute special. It was from CBSN, and I figured out it was owned by Paramount. So maybe if like everything wraps up super quick today, we might just try to watch it anyway, but probably not. But for the Christian topic, it's kind of like atheism versus Christianity in the United States, something like that. Kind of a broad topic. Got a number of segments there. Everybody just gear up for September, man. Something tells me September is going to be a little bit bumpy. This podcast really gives me a sense of purpose. I'm really enjoying it. You know, I managed to scrape up one more little hit of weed last night, one last mercy hit. Man, it took a long time. It was not easy. I definitely think I got nothing to scrape today. Have not smoked any marijuana today. And unless I go to the weed store, I will definitely not be smoking at all today. And yeah, it was a little bit rough last night before I got that mercy hit. We'll see what happens. If I do decide to buy weed, I'm just going to smoke at night. I think that's the way to do it. But I think the plan as of now is we are trying to carry on. Oh, you screwed your knuckles up. Bad news bears. Caved and bought some weed after almost 3 weeks. Well, that's what happened the first time I tried to quit weed since moving here. I lasted about 3 weeks. And it's kind of deja vu, guys, because I was trying to quit weed around this very same time last year. And the excuse ended up being, come on, dude, like, October's coming. How am I going to not smoke a little bit of weed when I'm watching horror movies in October? And I will very likely use that same argument again. But it ain't over until Smear Gang sings, baby. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the news segment. Only today, it's not news. We're doing a history day. Let's go. You're listening to the Reformed Stoic News segment. Let's go. Alrighty then, folks. Let's learn a little bit about President Harry S. Truman. I have not heard a lot about this one, honestly. And I'm to a point where I feel like this is like a really great next educational step for me to take. Learn about all the presidents, starting from World War II, leading till now. I dove into some of those videos from The Memory Hole. Highly recommended everybody check out this channel on YouTube, The Memory Hole. All kinds of, CSN? Or C-SPAN, all kinds of C-SPAN interviews. I watched one about Nixon and Kissinger. This morning, I watched one about intelligence and espionage in schools. I watched one on the Nazis and the Catholic Church. I'd been looking for resources on that. Found a great resource on that. Bilderberg Trilateral Commission and Foreign Council on Relations. Watched one on that yesterday. That channel, The Memory Hole, dude, there's absolutely so many red pills on there. It's ridiculous. All right, so we got President Truman announces bombing of Hiroshima. Wow, here's a little piece of history for you guys. Let's get it.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. The Japanese began the war from the air at Pearl Harbor. They have been repaid many-fold, and the end is not yet. With this bomb, we have now added a new and revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of our armed forces. In their present form, these bombs are now in production, and even more powerful forms are in development. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe. The force from which the sun draws his power has been loosed against those who brought war to the Far East. We are now prepared to destroy more rapidly and completely every productive enterprise the Japanese have in any city. We shall destroy their docks, their factories, and their communications. Let there be no mistake. We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. It was to spare the Japanese people from utter destruction that the ultimatum of July the 26th was issued at Potsdam. Their leaders promptly rejected that ultimatum. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Behind this air attack will follow sea and land forces in such numbers and power as they have not yet seen, and with the fighting skill of which they are already well aware.
Why in the hell would he be laughing, dude? You see that? They cut away and he was laughing. Ha ha ha! Dropped an atomic bomb. Like, dude.
Well aware.
Smiling and laughing. Whoa. Come on now.
We have spent more than $2 billion on the greatest scientific gamble in history, and we have won. But the greatest marvel is not the size of the enterprise, its secrecy, or its cost, but the achievement of scientific brains in making it work. And hardly less marvelous has been the capacity of industry to design and of labor to operate the machines and methods to do things never done before. Both science and industry work together under the direction of the United States Army, which achieved a unique success in an amazingly short time. It is doubtful if such another combination could be got together in the world. What has been done is the greatest achievement of organized science in history.
Very fascinating to see. Now, traditionally over here, as we go over certain kinds of topics, I kind of just give you some of my tinfoil hat takes. People around these parts consider that maybe the atomic bomb isn't real. Really not something that I've done an incredible amount of research on. I'm kind of halfway in, halfway out with that one. Why would they lie about that? Well, ultimately, that is a big part of our kind of like why we don't have world wars now, is the threat of an atomic nuclear war. The world has kind of come to an agreement. If we go to a world war at this point, the atomic bombs are going to come back into play, and we're all going to nuke each other back to the Stone Age. Yeah, just something interesting to consider. Like, early Hollywood studios were actually used to film military bomb footage, ultimately to fake atomic bomb footage. So, what about Hiroshima? What would be the deal if we didn't have an atomic bomb? Well, basically, they just carpet bombed the shit out of it. So, take that with a grain of salt. Maybe something to consider. Maybe part of why he was laughing. I don't know. Comments are turned off. Alrighty then. Well, we got a number of short segments today. Here we go. Former President Truman discusses using the atomic bomb to win World War II. So now this is discussing the use of it. Here we go.
Scene 2144A.
Sir, at the time that you first found out about the atomic bomb, did you regard it as a curse or a blessing to mankind?
Well, I thought it was a blessing. I thought it could be used and made a blessing. I never worried about it being a curse. I wanted a weapon that would win the war, and it did. That's what I was interested in.
The United Nations was already in the process of being formed at that time, and with the atomic bomb in our exclusive possession, what were our chances of preventing another war?
The United Nations.
Hey, let's just clip out what he's saying for some reason. That was weird. A lot of weird stuff from these old clips.
The United Nations was called to meet on the 16th, I think, of July in San Francisco. And the first decision I had to make after I became President of the United States, the newspapermen came in and asked me if the United Nations meeting would take place. The United Nations meeting did take place, and I went to San Francisco and set them to work.
Did it seem to you that the demonstration of the bomb to put an end to the horrible war might give humanity a good chance of really being frightened to death, and that such overwhelming fear would become the compellent deterrent to to war?
No, I never had any such feeling at all. I was thought of that as a weapon of war, and as a weapon that was powerful enough to win that war. After we made a demonstration of it in Texas, in New Mexico, when the first one was exploded in New Mexico, the word came to me in Potsdam just exactly what had happened. 2 pages on legal type paper, and it was a long, weepy proposition. And I showed it to the members of the cabinet that were there, and I said, now, we're in a shape to win the war without with very few casualties on our side, and we hope not.
Okay, well, this is a trip so far. Like, laughing and cutting things out and interesting. Like I said, I really struggled putting together clips for this segment, and now we have a 1 minute and 25-second clip. Harry S. Truman's 60-second presidents, PBS, and I'm actually afraid that we're going to get in trouble for watching this. So that's something to consider for me moving forward. I'm really going to have to think about how we're going to cover the presidents, because I just feel like everything is not allowed. But let's go ahead and see what we got here.
Franklin Roosevelt established the president as the leader of the free world, and then he died in April 1945, giving that job to Vice President Harry Truman, when the free world was just about in chaos. It's a great underdog story. Truman was a regular, plain-spoken guy from Missouri. He struggled as a farmer and shop owner before finding his niche in politics. He had little experience in foreign affairs, but he said the buck stops here, and was not afraid to make bold decisions in keeping peace at home and communism at bay abroad. He started the atomic age by making the decision to drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan to end World War II. He won support for the Marshall Plan, which gave Europe economic assistance to rebuild. He ended segregation in the armed forces, and he decided to fight the spread of communism. That made the US and the Soviet Union rivals, and it drew the United States into what was termed the Korean conflict, as he decided not to ask Congress for a declaration of war when the US intervened between South Korea and communist North Korea. At home, Truman held together the Democratic coalition that supported the New Deal, but had trouble expanding New Deal programs. People got tired of the Korean War and a stagnant economy, and Truman was hugely unpopular when he retired. But he's now remembered as one of the most important presidents.
Comments. Thank you. All the comments and the other ones were banned. Yeah, so after looking at the physics behind it, well, yeah, that's the thing about looking at the physics, looking at the math. That's a pattern I'm starting to see. It's like, oh, yeah, I looked into the space is fake stuff, but I looked at the math, and I was convinced otherwise. I looked into the fake atomic weapons. I looked into the physics, basically math, and I was convinced otherwise. I feel like there's not a one-to-one correlation between higher math and reality. You can look at some very impressive equations and work, but what it comes down to is have you been to space? Have you experienced space? Have you seen an atomic explosion? Have you experienced it? It's definitely hard to maintain an empiricist worldview with those kind of arguments. I mean, you're going to have to experience it or see it for yourself, but tell you what, with the atomic bomb, it's like, I really don't want to experience that. So, I don't know, guys. Moving forward, I definitely think that flat Earth, fake space, hoax NASA is much more relevant, because SpaceX and NASA are always saying they're doing these great big things, and a lot of what's going on moving forward has a lot to do with that. But I'm trying to keep things like much more down to earth, if you will. I'm really just trying to put my energy on the things that I have a better fighting chance of proving or convincing people of. I do think it's relevant, though. Another thing that fits here, someone gave Truman's daughter a negative review of her singing, but Truman replied that that person would need a new nose if he ever met him. Franklin D. Roosevelt died on April 12th, 1945 in Warm Springs. Oh, okay. FDR hype. Dude, what are you doing, Duke? Why are you hurting your Why are you hurting your hands like right now? Are you punching the wall? Are you one of those feds that we talk about who's like punching the wall? 10 bonus points. What college did he graduate from? None. He was the last president to not graduate from university. Interesting. He had no college degree. Thank you very much. Sorry about grammar. I am from Ukraine. I was most prepared. Some information about it. Oh, wow. This guy really can't speak English. Harry Truman, weird little human. Serves 2 terms, and when he's done... What happens when he's done? Okay, whatever. Sounds like the beginning of the end. Very cute. Seeing that same scenario play out this cycle. A frail, incoherent president. Questionable vice president. Truman 2 is well in the works. I think I saw 2 Harry S. Truman, 1 color and 1 black and white gray. What the hell is everybody talking about in this chat, dude? I don't know. Sometimes I think when you guys are all saying hard, like hard, I feel like you guys are all like anonymizer bots. And you're like flexing in the chat that you're like anonymizer bots, but I hope not, because Mike Santos is a real one. He's a mod on my other channel. Let's go. I don't know, dude. Sometimes I think you guys are all feds, bro. Sometimes I think my channel is like quarantined and there's not really any real viewers here. And like, yeah, it's really sad. It's really scary, dude. I hope that's not true. I think I saw 2 Harry S. Truman. Okay, we already read that one. Extra credit. What is his middle name? Who cares? Okay, sure. It's just S. Wrinkles, please don't do that. Okay, well, that is all our video segments. I do, however, have this article, President Truman and the CIA. We actually covered... So you're saying you have no real viewers? No, I'm saying that I consider that I have no real viewers, and that would be very sad. I hope not. Thing is, guys, is everybody's anonymous. Like, I have no idea who you guys are, dude, you know? I don't know who anybody is. Like, that's part of the reason feds love YouTube and they love Discord. They love all this anonymous stuff. I show my face. You guys know my name. You guys know who I am. I have put my reputation on the line. Something to be said for it. Like, unless I'm a fucking robot, you know who I am. So, not trying to give you guys a hard time, dude. I'm just trying to say I really don't know. I don't know who's a fed. I don't know who's real. I don't know who's anonymizer. October 2017. Why is it stupid, Duke? I mean, I don't know who you guys are. You just, you come here a lot and you type in my chat, but I don't know who you guys are, bro. So, I do this anyway, hoping for the best, but if you guys all were... Well, I don't know, dude. Right now, you're kind of acting like a fed. Like, just chill. Just chill, dude. I have no idea who any of you guys are. I have no idea who you guys are. You're people with goofy names and goofy pictures, and I appreciate you being here. I don't really know. You know what I mean? It's anonymous. There's no way of knowing. So, you just have to kind of keep that in mind. The United States has carried out clandestine spy missions since the American Revolution. The Culper spy ring aided George Washington, and a network of spies operated during the Civil War. As America's main intelligence gathering organization, the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, traces its roots to the Office of Strategic Services, OSS. The OSS was a World War II agency formed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff to carry out covert action behind enemy lines. It was officially disbanded after the war when President Truman signed Executive Order 9621. Its functions were then split between the state and war departments. So this is trumanlittlewhitehouse.org. It did not take long for Truman to recognize the ongoing need for a peacetime equivalent of the OSS. The first time that the idea of a Central Intelligence Agency appeared in public print was in a 1945 proposal to the U.S. Senate about restructuring the military command hierarchy. Despite opposition from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the military and the State Department, Truman created the Central Intelligence Group in January of the following year. He needed an organization that would combine and collate all the reports from the various intelligence agencies into a single daily briefing. The streamlined report would provide an overview of important issues happening around the world and overcome the seeming lack of coordination among the different services. In his memoirs, Truman wrote that he believed it was important for the country to have a sound, well-organized intelligence apparatus. This enabled the president to know what was going on around the world and have the necessary facts to make informed decisions if action was required. The CIG would provide information, strategic warnings, and oversee clandestine operations overseas. The drawback was that the CIG relied on funding and support from other agencies, which could withdraw it at any time. The solution was the creation of an organization with its own legal and financial framework, separate and independent from other agencies. The CIG would remain operational until the passage of the National Security Act of 1947. The CIA was seen as a counterweight to the KGB, a secret Soviet Union security organization which had been operating for many years. A major restructuring of the country's military and intelligence gathering agencies, the act created the Department of Defense and the CIA as an independent organization. While Truman may have envisioned the CIA as a daily newspaper providing information on developments around the globe that could affect American foreign policy, the agency quickly evolved into an organization that also conducted covert operations similar to its OSS predecessor. These missions were mainly directed against the Soviet Union as part of the country's ongoing efforts to fight the Cold War. The CIA was seen as a counterweight to the KGB, a secret Soviet Union security organization, which had been operating for many years. While the FBI handled domestic intelligence and security, the CIA would function in a similar fashion overseas. The Central Intelligence Agency Act of 1949 further outlined the missions and responsibilities of the organization that were not clearly defined in the 1947 legislation. Americans who once feared the establishment of an organization like the CIA embraced it as a tool for winning the Cold War. Later in life, Truman, like many others, commented that civilian leaders needed to remain vigilant in their oversight of the CIA. So, more or less, CIA started under Truman. Blade's toe hole's not doing great. Yikes. I'm one of the only real viewers. You know what, Duke? I don't really appreciate you saying that, dude. I mean, I said that I'm suspicious of everyone, and your response is to say that you're one of the only real viewers. I hope everybody here's real viewers, dude, okay? I hope you're a real viewer. I hope everybody's a real viewer. Just chill out, man. I always go with the logic. I have no fucking idea who any of you guys are, bro, okay? Anybody can type anything into YouTube. You're my best friend. I love you. Wow, this is so great, blah, blah, blah. Anybody can type anything, dude, okay? So I have no proof that anybody is or isn't anyone. I enjoy you guys being here. I've decided to keep doing this because I'd like to think that I do have a real audience. I would like to think this is genuine, but I'll tell you what, man. I've had a lot of bad luck in my life, so please just chill out, dude. I'm sorry that you hurt your fist. Hopefully it's not because you're a 6'4", 300-pound Navy SEAL punching the wall while you're watching my stream. Just a little scrape. No worries, boyos. I'm here now. Can you red pill me on bathtub DIY hormones? No, I cannot. Wolfgang. Yeah, dude, I just answered somebody's question, guys. Let's just all calm down. I consider that any of you is a fed at any given time. So I'm sorry that hurt your feelings. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I don't know how YouTube works, bro. For all I know, like, my channel has been backdoored and I'm not even allowed to gain a real fucking audience at this point. I'm just trying to be honest, bro, based off of what I know. I mean, I took a picture of a former CIA agent dressed up as a mailman. So I'm really just trying to be logical here. But I would definitely like to believe that you guys are here because you're my fans and that you like being here. That would be good news. If you guys are real, that's good news for me. Something in my life is working out. But things in my life tend to not work out. So, okay, let's go ahead and just pull up Wikipedia for Truman.
From early morning.
Yeah, I'm not shitting on anybody, dude. You're basically just, I don't know, man. I don't really know what you're doing. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that you're one of my only legitimate viewers, bro. I'm not shitting on anybody. I'm just sticking with the logic, man. It's not worth getting banned, bro. Chill out. Harry Truman redirects here for other uses. Okay, Harry S. Truman. 33rd President of the United States, serving from 1945 to 1953, a member of the Democratic Party. He previously served as the 34th Vice President from January to April 1945 under Franklin Roosevelt, and as a United States Senator from Missouri from 1935 to January 1945. Having assumed the presidency after Roosevelt's death, Truman implemented the Marshall Plan to rebuild the economy of Western Europe and establish both the Truman Doctrine and NATO to contain the expansion of communism. He proposed numerous liberal domestic reforms, but few were enacted by the conservative coalition, which dominated the Congress. Truman grew up in Independence, Missouri, and during the First World War fought in France as a captain in the field artillery. Returning home, he opened a haberdashery in Kansas City, Missouri, and was elected as a judge of Jackson County in 1922. What is a haberdashery? Business or person who sells small articles for sewing. Okay. Truman was elected to the United States Senate from Missouri in 1934. In 1940 and 1944, he gained national prominence as chairman of the Truman Committee, which was aimed at reducing waste and inefficiency in wartime contracts. Only after assuming the presidency was he informed about the atomic bomb. Truman authorized the first and only use of nuclear weapons in war against Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Truman's administration engaged in an internationalist foreign policy by working closely with British Prime Minister Clement Attlee. Truman staunchly denounced isolationism, a political philosophy advocating a national foreign policy that opposes involvement in the political affairs and especially the wars of other countries. Okay. All right, so he denounced isolationism. He energized the New Deal coalition during the 1948 presidential election and won a surprise victory against Republican Thomas E. Dewey that secured his own presidential term. Truman presided over the onset of the Cold War in 1947. He oversaw the Berlin Airlift and Marshall Plan in 1948. With the involvement of the U.S. in the Korean War of 1950 to 1953, South Korea repelled the invasion by North Korea. Domestically, the post-war economic challenges such as strikes and inflation created a mixed reaction over the effectiveness of his administration. In 1948, he proposed Congress pass comprehensive civil rights legislation. Congress refused, so in 1948, Truman issued Executive Order 9980 and Executive Order 9981, which desegregated the armed forces and federal agencies. Corruption in the Truman administration became a central campaign issue in the 1952 presidential election. He was eligible for re-election in 1952, but with weak polls, he decided not to run. Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower attacked Truman's record and won easily. Truman went into a retirement marked by the founding of his presidential library and the publication of his memoirs. It was long thought that his retirement years were financially difficult for Truman, resulting in Congress establishing a pension for former presidents, but evidence eventually emerged that he amassed considerable wealth, some of it while still president. When he left office, Truman's administration was heavily criticized. Though critical reassessment of his presidency has improved his reputation among historians and the general population. Right on. All right, is everybody in chat like chilling out, dude? We were all fed, sitting in office, monitoring YouTube. It doesn't really matter what people like, bro. There's like a number of channels that are trying to make me look bad. I am doxxed and harassed on Kiwi Farms. Like, I'm the only one here who's gone through fucking anything for this movement. So I certainly don't feel sorry for any of you, bro. My channel has completely fucking changed my entire life. I was getting real estate mobbed. I'm getting gang stalked. I had to fucking move. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, buddy, but this shit has actually affected me, dude. So you can take a fucking seat. Now you can hush up about it or I'm going to ban you, bro. I have no fucking idea who you are, so chill out. Stoic has called me a fed one time before these things happen, bud. Don't take it personal. Yeah, just chill out, dude. I'm the only one here who's been fucking affected negatively by this. You guys are all just chilling and hopefully having fun. I hope you guys are legit. I hope you're having fun. That makes me feel good, dude, because if you are all feds, then everything I've done is completely fucking useless, and my life is basically completely fucking useless. So I really hope that you're not feds. So please don't be feds, okay? Can we move on? All right. I'm sorry. Move on. Moving on. Atomic bomb. Hey, let's get cozy and learn about weapons that can incinerate millions of fucking people in seconds.
We tell a lot of stories about science and politics on Crash Course, but it's hard to get much more political than the Manhattan Project. This is the story of the bomb that earned a capital B and the scars it left on 20th century science and culture. It's not a happy story. Sorry in advance. The story picks up where we left off last time, with Einstein writing the president of his new homeland, the United States, urging him to build a nuclear weapon before Hitler. But how did Albert even know about this amazingly powerful weapon? For that, we turn to Hungarian-American physicist Leo Szilard. Szilard read about Ernest Rutherford's work with electrons and in 1933 realized that it was theoretically possible to split apart an atom's juicy center and create nuclear fission, releasing vast amounts of energy and thus splitting apart another atom and another and another. Thus, Szilard came up with the idea of a nuclear chain reaction, which could mean a new form of energy, or a superweapon. Szilard, with the help of hotshot Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, quickly patented the idea of a nuclear reactor, or atomic pile, in 1934. This device would cause a self-sustaining nuclear reaction. Then, in 1938, German physicists actually achieved fission in the lab. And also, Hitler annexed Austria, and a year later, Poland. War descended once again onto the world. Szilard decided that only his and Fermi's invention could save it. So he drafted a letter to President Roosevelt with some input from a couple of other physicists, only Szilard wasn't famous enough to just, high-five Roosevelt and get a nuclear weapons program off the ground, but he knew someone who was. Albert Einstein, the most famous scientist in the world, and possibly ever, signed Szilard's letter. It was only 2 pages, and it's really worth Googling. It basically said, there's the possibility of this new superweapon, and the Germans might get it first. Now let's be clear, Einstein was a pacifist, but he was also like a very smart, deeply pragmatic person. In his mind, the only question was, would the Americans, Germans, or Russians split the atom first? And he foresaw a potentially very bad ending for Germany, the Jewish people, the free world, and science. He foresaw literally the end of the world. What happened next is really, really hard to understand from today's perspective. The US government, with a little help from Canada, ran an enormously expensive and secret weapons program for 4 years. Secret even from Congress. There were no leaks, so almost no one on Earth understood the possibility of nuclear physics until it was too late. This program was codenamed the Manhattan Project, and it was perhaps the first and clearest example of big science. Government-sponsored, multi-year, multi-sited, field-defining work. The Manhattan Project involved 43,000 people, including a who's who of European and North American scientists in the 40s, from Szilard and Fermi to the great Hungarian-American mathematician and computer scientist John von Neumann. The project had several parts, but most of the sciencing happened in a couple places. Take us on a fateful ride, Thought Bubble. First stop, the University of Chicago, underneath the football stadium. That's right, the biggest science ever got physically started in a place no one would ever look for it, which sounds like the plot of a B-movie. There, in December of 1942, Enrico Fermi, the architect of the nuclear age, created the very first controlled nuclear chain reaction, Chicago Pile 1. Keep in mind, the Europeans who'd fled Hitler and the Americans and Canadians who were now managing their novel experiments had no idea how far Hitler's team might have gotten. Everything was secret, new, and a guess. This was science at war. Second stop, the mines on the Navajo Nation, which included parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. Here, starting in 1944, the people who call themselves the Dene mined a yellow rock containing naturally high amounts of the heavy metal uranium. The Dene would continue to mine the nation's uranium for decades, until 1989, long after the peak of the Cold War. No one knows the full extent of the radiation exposure, but we can uncontroversially say that mining radioactive ore led to higher rates of lung cancer. The US government didn't act to address this problem until 1990, a long, long time after World War II. Okay, back in time, third stop, Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico. Here, American physics boss Julius Robert Oppenheimer, aka the father of the atomic bomb, oversaw the project's scientific research and the design of the nuclear weapon. And on July 16, 1945, the team led by Oppenheimer set off the world's first atomic explosion at the Trinity site near Los Alamos. The bomb was much bigger than anyone had anticipated. A large mushroom cloud appeared high over the desert. The test was a success. Famously, Oppenheimer summed up the moment by quoting the epic Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
In the story, this is a line that Vishnu says when he takes on a fearsome, multi-armed form, which meant basically that Oppenheimer recognized two things. Developing a nuclear weapon was like being a god, and this weapon was about appearing more fearsome to one's enemies. Thanks, Thought Bubble. By mid-1945, the biggest enemy
About appearing more fearsome to one's enemies. Very interesting if you're considering that maybe it's not real. Rick refers to it as the invocation of the unknown, which is something that Aleister Crowley talks about.
of the democratic world was no longer Germany. The Allies had invaded and retaken France in June. Now the US wanted to end the Pacific War with Japan. And the United States had a totally new weapon, one that created devastation on an unprecedented scale. The only choice left was whether or not to use it. Most historians today agree that the reason for dropping the bomb cited at the time, that is to prevent a long drawn-out war with Japan, is wrong. Part of the challenge in writing the bomb's history, especially right after the war, was that many official documents were classified. Once documents began to be declassified, such as Truman's diaries at the Potsdam Conference, which became publicly available in 1978, historians began to change the narrative of why Truman dropped the bomb. President Truman, Roosevelt had died earlier in 1945, was aware that Japan was militarily weak, and American victory was
Yeah, I consider that they're not real. It goes right along with the flat earth theory. Basically, they would have just carpet bombed the shit out of Hiroshima. Something I consider.
basically inevitable, Truman was also quite aware of the number of casualties that would result from the use of an atomic bomb. The decision to drop it was a well-informed one. Besides immediate military victory, two other reasons factored into this decision. One, to justify its monumental cost, and two, to intimidate all enemies, present and future, of the United States. On August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay, a B-29 Superfortress bomber named after the mother of the pilot, took off from an island 6 hours away from Japan. At just after 8 in the morning, Hiroshima time, the Enola Gay dropped a 10,000-pound uranium-235 bomb nicknamed Little Boy that exploded over the city. This was the first and deadliest atomic bombing in history. 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, the United States dropped a second atomic weapon, a plutonium-239 weapon, nicknamed Fat Man, on another port city, Nagasaki. About 200,000 people died in the bombings and in the months afterward. Japan surrendered unconditionally. It remains the only nation to have been attacked using an atomic weapon. The long-term impact was unknown and unknowable. Even the scientists who created the bomb didn't know what would happen, although they had some pretty strong guesses. After the war, Oppenheimer became director of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, and now there's an opera about him. Japan rebuilt, the United States experienced an unprecedented economic boom. Yet the end of World War II and the revelation of the Manhattan Project did not bring about world peace, but a smoldering global super conflict called the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the United States. The stakes? Control of most of the world. The rules of this game? Nuclear physics. The units of success? Number of atomic bombs, size of atomic bombs, and that's it. Yeah, weird for the conflict that pretty much organized global politics for 40 years. Okay, so what did the physicists come up with? The thermonuclear, or hydrogen bomb, which used fusion, or the joining together of nuclei, to create an even bigger reaction than the first generation fission reactors had been able to. The United States invented this one too. The Teller-Ulam design, named after physicists Edward Teller and Stanislav Ulam, is still secret to this day, which is kind of amazing. Teller was intense. He advocated for using thermonuclear weapons for all kinds of reasons, including digging out convenient giant artificial harbors, you know, a totally justifiable use of a novel super weapon. Jokes aside, the United States and the USSR continued to build and test these weapons. Between 1946 and 1958, the US tested a series of gigantic nuclear bombs at Bikini Atoll, which caused permanent damage, displacing the Bikini Islanders forever from their own nation. This is just one of the most heinous examples of the lasting social and ecological damage of nuclear physics. Nuclear fission used for energy production has not been blameless either. You might have heard of the terrible accidents at 3 Mile Island in 1979, Chernobyl in 1986, and Fukushima Daiichi in 2011. You may not have heard about the accident in 2014 at the waste isolation pilot plant in New Mexico, when the wrong brand of kitty litter was used in containment. A drum of nuclear waste exploded. Nuclear waste is incredibly dangerous for thousands of years, and there's literally tons of it, and no one knows what to do with it, so it all comes down to kitty litter. Anyway, we'll return to the Anthropocene, or the physical signs of global ecological collapse, a little later. The different applications of nuclear energy are still hotly debated today, and so are the different ways of telling the history of this technology. For example, when the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum tried to mark the anniversary of dropping the atomic bomb on Hiroshima with an exhibit in the 1990s, a debate erupted. Was the United States justified in using this weapon? How should historians of technology think about weapons? In fact, this became known as the History Wars. On the application side, many groups of scientists, such as the Union of Concerned Scientists, have criticized nuclear weapons and energy programs as unnecessary. That is, these can be seen as good examples of the problem of creating shiny new technologies simply for technology's sake. Or maybe, as social scientist Carol Cohn pointed out in 1987 in her classic portrait of the US culture of strategizing about global nuclear war, sex and death in the rational world of defense intellectuals, the whole point of building bigger, better weapons of mass destruction was just to prove you had the bigger bomb. Next time, the world is still at war. It's time to examine antibiotics, Nazi science, and the rise of biomedicine. Crash Course History of Science is filmed in the Dr. Cheryl C. Kinney studio in Missoula, Montana.
Let's take a look at some comments. He left out a critical thought of Truman's. Essentially, what if we lost thousands of Americans during the invasion of Japan and the American people found out that we had a bomb that could have ended the war and I decided not to use it? Yeah, history and really, really simple game theory very clearly show that showing off a super weapon to your enemies does not carry the message you should fear us. Almost always the received message is you should get some of these as quickly as possible. Great episode as always, Hank. Do you plan on covering Alan Turing, his team's code breaking, and the first computer? Who cares? It's kind of terrifying that one of the factors to drop the bomb was to justify spendings. Using NBC weapons because you don't want to lose soldiers in war is the dumbest excuse ever. Almost all war is, to an extent, all about spendings. Hell, Extra History made a great miniseries about how World War II was greatly influenced by resources and logistics rather than simple good versus evil. Even so, it worked. Ricardo S. Millions of civilians would have died in a mainland invasion of Japan. Yeah, these are all really big questions, guys. Should we have dropped the bomb? Is the bomb even real? It's like... It's funny because you get into this stuff for a while and then you become very familiar with the idea that you should just live your life and that, you know, mistakes are bound to be made. And, I mean, maybe capitalism is the best way of life, you know? People have been thinking I've been talking like I'm becoming a commie lately. No, that's not really what's happening. But we do live in a capitalist system, and ultimately the evils of the CIA... The corruption of the two-party system, the elite trilateral commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, Rockefeller, Rothschild. This is all like a part of capitalism. So this is certainly a flawed system, but is it the best system? And there's just questions, and a lot of people can make the argument that like it's all just a waste of time. You should just live your life. But hey, you know what? We're asking the fucking questions and we're giving it a shot. You guys are doing a great job presenting complex histories in short videos. All right. The most fearsome sight, the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. I think we got a pretty long article here. I'm just going to kind of skim through it. We'll see what happens. By July 1945, Germany had surrendered and the war in Europe was over. Japan, however, refused to submit to the terms outlined in the Allies' Potsdam Declaration. It appeared to American leaders that the only way to compel Japan's unconditional surrender was to invade and conquer the Japanese home islands. Although an estimated 300,000 Japanese civilians had already died from starvation and bombing raids, Japan's government showed no sign of capitulation. Instead, American intelligence intercepts revealed that by August 2nd, Japan had already deployed more than 560,000 soldiers and thousands of suicide planes and boats on the island of Kyushu to meet the expected American invasion of Japan. Additional reports correctly surmised that the Japanese military intended to execute all American prisoners in Japan in the event of an Allied landing. These frightening figures portended a costlier battle for the United States than any previously fought during the war. By comparison, U.S. forces suffered 49,000 casualties, including 12,000 men killed in action, when facing less than 120,000 Japanese soldiers during the battle for the island of Okinawa from April to June of 1945. At least 110,000 Japanese soldiers and more than 100,000 Okinawan civilians, a third of the island's pre-war population, also perished in the campaign. American casualties on Okinawa weighed heavily on the minds of American planners who looked ahead to the invasion of Japan. Japan's leaders hoped to prevail, not by defeating American forces, but by inflicting massive casualties and thereby breaking the resolve of the American public. Nukes are BS, let's go. It was a necessary evil to nuke Japan, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, these are all big questions, dude. As a philosopher, you just find yourself like drowning in big questions and you try to come up with answers. And I don't know, guys. Sometimes it just seems like, everything other than like having a bunch of money and banging a bunch of hot girls is cope. But that's where the Bible comes in. And then again, at the end of today's show, we're going to go over atheism versus Christianity and the United States. And I think that's really like what it comes down to for me. I want to be a warrior for Christ, and I see that this country is ultimately it's attacking Christianity. Like it's not a Christian country, and I just want to be somewhere Christian, bro. I just want to be somewhere where I can unapologetically live my Christian life, and I don't like atheists, and I don't like anything that like perennialists and atheists are about, and it just gets exhausting, you guys. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I might go buy weed after this. It's shame I had to read that comment. Like, who do I think is feds? But yeah, I'm just going with it logically, guys. And yeah, the point really does come down to like, Wolfgang is just me, and I'm like getting under fucking fire for calling it Wolfgang. I'm probably gonna like put out a video soon and say there is no Wolfgang because none of you guys got doxxed. None of you guys are getting gang stalked. None of you guys had to move. You're all joking around and having a good laugh. This channel changed my entire fucking life, dude. I'm the one who's a gangster here. I'm the one who's under fucking fire. I'd say Rick Perry's in it too. Rick Perry taught me a lot, but I'm sorry, you guys. Like, I fucking made sacrifices for this channel, dude, and it's not very big. And yeah, I don't know who's real. And it's like, you know what, dude? Like, you're welcome that I fucking like sacrifice the quality of my life to make this channel happen. I hope that you guys are real, and I hope that somebody appreciates it. Because if not, I tell you what, man, I really fucking wonder about my life sometimes. It's like a lot of things went wrong. I'd like to think that there's something positive coming out of this. I really would. This was the situation that confronted American President Harry S. Truman in the summer of 1945, when he authorized the use of the world's first atomic bomb. In light of intelligence reports about Japan's commitment to continue fighting, Truman and his military advisors were determined to use every weapon at their disposal in order to bring the war to an immediate end. Consequently, neither Truman nor any of his advisors ever debated if the atomic bombs should be used, only how and where they should be used. In the spring of 1945, the American government convened a committee of scientists and military officers to determine how best to use the bombs. This group unanimously declared that there was no guarantee that demonstrating the bombs to the Japanese in a deserted area would convince Japanese leaders to surrender. It was vital that Japan be convinced to surrender as fast as possible because the United States had just 2 atomic bombs available in July 1945, and additional weapons would not be ready to deploy for several more weeks. Meanwhile, thousands of Chinese, American, and Japanese soldiers continued to die each day. The war continued. I'm just going to keep rage reading, dude. Let's just fucking rage read through this whole shit. Consequently, Truman approved the long-standing plans for the U.S. Army Air Force to drop atomic bombs on a list of pre-selected Japanese cities. The list of targets included Tokyo and Kyoto because of their political and historic importance. Instead, the intended target of the first bomb was Hiroshima, a fan-shaped city of approximately 550,000 people that occupied the estuary of the Oda River. The city was also home to the headquarters of the Japanese army that defended the island of Kyushu, as well as a number of war industries. At 2:45 a.m. on Monday, August 6, 1945, 3 American B-29 bombers of the 509th Composite Group took off from an airfield on the Pacific island of Tinian, 1,500 miles south of Japan. Colonel Paul Tibbets piloted the lead bomber, Enola Gay, which carried a nuclear bomb nicknamed Little Boy. Despite the bomb's moniker, it weighed nearly 10,000 pounds. As a result, the overloaded Enola Gay used more than 2 miles of runway to get aloft. At 7:15 a.m., the bomber crew armed the bomb, and the plane began its ascent to the bombing altitude of 3,100 feet. Let's see. I think, we got one more news segment. Let's go ahead and stop there for now, and we'll get back to this after we watch this next clip. All right, where do I leave off in chat? Necessary evil to nuke Japan. I heard today Tokyo has the most millionaires out of any city in the world, which is wild. Join the Amish. Move to Pennsylvania. Gangin', bangin', and slangin'. Nanobot has something to say about that, Rick. Stoic. Many people had their lives turned upside down post 216. Yeah, man. I mean, it's not a competition, dude. I got a lot of people trying to make me look like a fucking joke. It's hard to prove, dude, but I really am being harassed. I really do got a lot of people harassing me. I'm sure a lot of you guys have hard lives, dude. That's probably why you're attracted to my channel. We're similar people. It's a shame when we got to tear each other apart, dude. Like Dead Doomer, I actually kind of liked his channel, man. I don't like that he talks shit about Christians, that's for sure. We can all make it. Sketty. Stoic, you're a legend. I appreciate it, dude. I'm sorry, guys. We're not supposed to be going through drama. We're supposed to be skitting it and getting it. Not giving a shit. Living legend shit. You guys are in the gang, bro. I mean, you're only fucking... It's not really that great to be in the gang, dude. A lot of responsibility. Ultimately, there is no gang. I mean, regardless of this discussion, like, there's no fucking gang. Calling anything a gang just gets me in trouble. That's all that comes out of it. Ah! Let's all have a good yell. I've already accepted if I can't afford housing in the U.S. off of getting whatever minimum wage job I'm allegedly moving to Europe. Dude, something that's been going on with me on Instagram is I add these girls who have private accounts. This has happened twice in the last day. They accept my friend request, and then as soon as I go to look at their profile, I'm banned. It's like, why don't you just fucking ban me without accepting my friend request? It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, they want me. I don't even know. I don't know why people do that. Maybe there's a good reason for it. There's a lot of shit getting under my nerves lately, you guys. And at the end of the day, I've already explained it. Every single fucking time I run out of weed, I say I'm going to quit. And I usually don't. And I'm probably not going to. But I do think waiting till nighttime wouldn't be so bad. I didn't throw any low blows at anybody, dude. Can you just drop it, man? I have no idea who you are, dude. You got what is that, George Bush in your picture? Like, everybody's got goofy pictures and names, and I enjoy your company, dude. I hope you're not a Fed. I hope everybody's not a Fed. I mean, ultimately, like, trying to strong-arm me to give it up, like, that's something a Fed would do. I'm sorry, dude. Just let it go. Oh, there's a gang. No, there's not a fucking gang, dude. Stoic, I believe you've been stalked 100%, but many of us lost family and friends due to libtard brainwashing. We're gonna figure it out, guys. Yeah, I'd rather deal with 10%, not 21%. I'm a Philippians 4:13 Christian. They get off on it. So demand for limited resources puts more upward pricing on it. Russia BS is gonna bite us in the ass. I think we're going to war. I think I'm going to the weed store, dude. Things just feel really bleak lately, you guys. Things just feel really fucking bleak. Okay, Einstein and the atomic bomb. Let's go.
Albert Einstein is known for many things: the discovery of the theories of relativity, the famous formula E equals mc squared, a formula that opened the door for the creation of the atomic bomb. What's not so well known was that he was behind the effort that urged Franklin Delano Roosevelt to build the bomb.
In December of 1932, Albert Einstein left Germany for the United States. At the time, he was 53 years old and one of the most recognizable men on the planet. The smartest man in the world. He had revolutionized physics in a way nobody had before and nobody has since. A month after his departure, the Nazis came to power in Germany. Einstein never returned to his homeland. In 1935, he was granted permanent residency in the United States, and 5 years later became a citizen. By 1940, his best work in physics was behind him, but his work in American and world politics was just beginning. Born in Germany in 1879, the story of young Einstein growing up is legendary. To his parents and teachers, he was quite ordinary. Undistinguished in school, he earned only mediocre grades in physics and mathematics. But in reality, he was just bored with the mindless and mechanical method of learning.
I mean, that's your opinion, dude. Or he was a stupid dummy and he got bad grades because he's a stupid dummy. Okay, moving on.
That school presented him. By the age of 16, he was already performing the thought experiments that would lead him to his special and general theories of relativity. In 1905, at the age of 26, Albert Einstein would essentially abolish science's ideas of space and time. In his special theory of relativity, he proclaimed the speed of light is constant, independent of who and where the measurement was taking place. Not so for space and time. A piece of space is...
I didn't get very good grades in high school, honestly. I got the honor roll one time in middle school. The high honor roll. I got straight A's one time in middle school. Then I got the honor roll, A's and B's. And then in high school, like a lot of C's. And I was pretty average, dude. I fucked off and partied. I did good on the ACTs and SATs, though. And not even like doing good in math. I didn't see very high math, but...
measurable dimensions are dependent on the frame of reference of the person doing the measurement. The same is true for time. This meant that space and time are relative, and the speed of light constant. Applying special relativity to energy, Einstein came up with his famous equation, E equals mc squared. In short, a tiny bit of matter contains a huge amount of energy, a fact borne out by the atomic bomb. 10 years later, he transcended Newtonian theory of gravity by including it in the more sweeping theory known as the general theory of relativity. In it, he was able to explain why all objects fell at the same rate. He was able to do this by showing that objects themselves curved space. Independent experiments in 1919 demonstrated that the sun did indeed bend light and thus confirmed his theory. In the process, Albert Einstein became a world celebrity. In 1922,
Hard man! Rick has 70 IQ. Hard!
He won the Nobel Prize for Physics. From then on, his theoretical work in physics
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you know, IQ is just whatever. I got like a 103 on the DK IQ test, but a lot of people say they score lower on that. And we're all smart, dude. Everybody here's smart. Let's go. Banana stickers for everybody.
Focused on attempts to reconcile relativity with quantum mechanics. A reconciliation still elusive in the early part of the 21st century. But with the rise of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, Einstein's celebrity forced him into the political arena. He threw his considerable reputation into America's war effort by writing a letter to President Roosevelt, urging the United States to pursue atomic bomb research. As a result of Einstein's influence, Franklin Delano Roosevelt put America on the fast track to developing an atomic bomb. After seeing the destruction of the atomic bomb, Einstein led a coalition of scientists who argued for an international agency to control nuclear weapons. Unless such an agency was created, a nuclear arms race between America and other countries would occur. That's just what happened. Albert Einstein lived long enough to see his prophecy come true. An arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union. He died in 1955.
Man, you guys, I question a lot of things, dude. And it's like, I question things all the way down to my faith. And that's where it gets really hard. And that's where I think it's like, I shouldn't even like discuss some of it on stream. But it's like, you know, we've decided around here that Southern Israelite was a honeypot. I mean, everybody online says that flat earth is like a honeypot red herring that's supposed to throw you off. I convince sometimes, okay, Southern Israelite's a honeypot. Well, maybe flat earth is fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? And like I fell for it, and now I'm years deep into it. But I mean, I look at like why I was convinced. I look at the footage of the moon landing. I think it looks fucking stupid. Jay Dyer and his boys think the moon landing was fake. But then they don't throw out heliocentrism. Well, why do I throw out heliocentrism? Because I think the idea of a rocket going into space and traveling into a planet, I don't even know what to say, dude. Like, I'm deep into it. The point is that I question some of the things that I believe. I was watching the Gospel of Luke movie the other day thinking, like, let's really listen to what he says, bro. Like, when Jesus is saying, if they take your coat, give him your... You know, if he takes this, give him this. It's like, did somebody invent this religion as like a lie? Is this like an invented lie? Like when Christ disappeared when he was 12 until he came back at 33, like was he getting trained to be some sort of like an early glow op? I mean, dude, I question my beliefs, guys, to the highest level. But what the conclusion I come to is like, if the Bible is not legit, then there's just nothing else, man. There's just nothing else. It's the greatest cause. It is the best series of rules and morals, and just it's the greatest that there is. And if that's not the reality, then what the hell else is there, man? Because I've already looked at, like, the laws of Manu. I've already looked at the Vedas. I've already looked at Krishna and all these various systems of occultism and Hermeticism. And I've already looked at the other options, man. And if the Bible ain't it, then it's all just a fucking pack of lies, dude, like Phil Collins says. And I mean, I don't want to act like I'm throwing it all out the window right now. I'm just saying I question my beliefs sometimes, and I'm in really deep. I believe stuff that a lot of people think is crazy, but I think that there is a secret war on Christianity. I think these asshole capitalists with sitting on their billions and billions of dollars, they hate God. They hate the Bible. They have falsified evidence against it. They've come up with theories against the Bible that are centrally a part of our society now. They are foundations of this society, this modern world that we live in, and I hate it. I hate what society's becoming. I hate what society's become. I'm reading the Old Testament right now, and all I'm trying to say right now is that I struggle, you guys. I just struggle, but while I'm thinking about my struggle, I think, no, there's a reason I'm doing this. I didn't just jump in for no reason. I wasn't just bored. This isn't just another thing. I think this is the real deal, and I'll continue being critical about it. And if someday I do get to the point where it's like, okay, fuck, I fucked up, and like I don't believe in flat Earth, or I fucked up, and like I don't believe in this or I don't believe in that. But right now, man, this is what I'm rocking with, and I didn't just jump into it on a whim. It all goes back to this war on Christianity, and that's all there is, man. The Bible is suggesting that you will have treasure in heaven if you forfeit the treasures of this world. And the treasures of this world aren't that great, you guys. Okay, fornicating with a bunch of women who just they're not about anything. It's empty. The treasures of this world are empty. Material pursuits are empty. The hierarchy in this world is not important. That's what I'm rocking with, man, and I'm deep into it. And I'll be honest with you, okay? If I realize that I fucked up, then I'll let you guys know. But this is what I'm rocking with, man. It's all good, Duke. Let me see what you guys got to say about that. Yeah, I really think like Rick probably has super high IQ, dude. Like he ones up Southern Israelite all the time, and I thought Southern Israelite had like 160. I don't know. Fucking IQ test. Maybe he just can't be bothered. I'll bet we are all above average. I mean, Stoic chat isn't. Yeah, we got this, dude. I think we're all above average, even if it's not IQ. Footage of the bombs looks fake. The Beatles said love is all you need. They were wrong. Hard is all you need. Rick's tombstone is just going to read hard. Was very smart as a kid. Got dumb growing up with drugs and such. Yeah, same here, dude. Same here. All I know is the firmament is real. Real. Yeah, I just like think about it. I'm a very visual thinker, and I just think, okay, rocket goes up, goes into space, lands on the moon. Okay, let's get back on the rocket and come home. Nope. My mind has learned to understand that we are just not capable of that, and ultimately the main reason is because there's nothing beyond the firmament that we have access to. Let's see. I'm going to skip through these comments here. Shooting a rocket at the firmament Saturday. Is it possible some of the Bible could have been changed over the years? Well, I will say this. Like when Jesus is saying if somebody steals from you, give him something else. I just think he's rejecting the earthly material possessions, rejecting the earthly hierarchy. Some of the things that Christ said, you got to keep in mind, like, he was alive then. You know, when he told somebody to give away all of their treasures and follow him, that's because he was alive. So when you're reading him tell the rich man to give away all of his belongings and follow him, I wouldn't say that you have to give away all of your belongings. I mean, if Christ was alive, I would give all my belongings and follow him. At least I'd like to think that. But yeah, I don't know. You know, if somebody takes something from you, do you have to give them something else? No, I think Christ was just laying out an idea there. And ultimately, you know, we all fall short of perfection. That would be perfection. Perfection would be if somebody steals one thing from you, you give them something else. And I think it's hard for people to understand that. But I think about it a lot, and I believe what I believe, guys. I really do believe this, and I do question it. NASA's goal is to colonize the moon. JLP said someone told him that they read the Bible and became an atheist. Well, it happens. Terraform it with Artemis. It's the long-term goal. I think we're meant to colonize the stars. I think the stars are cringe, man. The Earth is a beautiful place. People ruin it. Bury me deep in a nameless grave. I came from God, the world to save. So in a grave without a name, that earth may swallow up my shame. That's why Bible thumping rather than looking for God within could be a detriment. Well, I like reading the Bible, bro. I think it's the Word of God. Sometimes the argument is, like, is it the infallible Word of God, or does it contain the Word of God? I mean, I still gotta get... A lot is at stake here with this reading through of the Old Testament. Because, you know, I've read it in fragments. I've yet to really, like, just start from the beginning and get all the way through it. And that's what I'm doing right now. And so far, so good. The roughest parts is, like, Numbers, where you just piss off God a little bit, and he's given thousands of people plagues and sucking Jews into Sheol. It's like, wow, like, can I handle that? Like, can I make peace with the fact that God just, like, killed a lot of people because they upset him? And it's like, yeah, you know what? I think I can. I think I can make peace with that. It sounds like it was a very different time. It sounds like it was brutal, but I don't know, man. This is deep shit. This is deep shit right now. I think I can make peace with it. I can make peace with everything that I've read in the Old Testament thus far. It's not meant to be easy. Most recently, they're really trying to make it Muslims versus Christians. Somebody in chat the other day said that Christians are going to get raptured and that Islam will be the beast world religion. I thought that was a very interesting thought. You should write about your struggles, maybe even title it My Obstacles or something like that. Mine Struggle. I could make a book. I could call it My Struggle. Mein Kampf. I believe in the scriptural cosmology. There we go. That's what it comes down to. Gospel is from God, but what they changed, hid, added are the things which probably cause you to doubt. We'll see. Someday we'll all know for sure. I'm going for tribulations in this world in exchange for everlasting peace in the next world. That's right. Jesus said there is great treasure in heaven for those who are hated for his name, for those who are mocked, ridiculed, hated, persecuted for his name. And I think I fall into that category at this point. I think a lot of you guys do. Don't be afraid to make changes, though. Don't be afraid to admit your mistakes and keep growing. And they made most into idol worshippers and associating partners with God because the more you sin, the better for them. Talmud hype. Co-host. Let's go. Guest appearance on the podcast. Well, he sang one time. One time he sang Different Strokes. It takes different strokes. It takes different strokes. First bong rip in 3 weeks. Oh, shit. Woo, that'll do it. I listen to the Bible every night when I sleep. The Bible is of God and maybe not from God. Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, baby. We'll have to discuss that more another time. The handlers have the final say. God was younger then, I guess. Yeah, God was going through his rebellious years. All I know is you got to love God with all your heart, soul, might, and all your strength. I just always say that human life was like less valuable back then. And then I consider that, you know, when it says that Christ went to free all the souls from hell when he descended into the underworld, I feel like that includes maybe all of the Jews who were getting maxed out by God in the Old Testament. Do you write much, Stoic? Right now, I'm just like, I got to focus on stuff. I got to figure out what I want my focus to be, but I got some stuff written down. Favorite gospel? That's a tough question. I don't think I have one. I'm most familiar with John and Matthew. I'll put in a request. Put different strokes on. Let's go. Well, I mean, the Bible was influenced by people of God, and it wasn't written from God. I'm going to decline to say anything about that right now. I'm overwhelmed by my rant. I think we probably covered enough about the atomic bomb. We'll read like one more paragraph here. I'm interested in this section. This religious section today is going to be a good way to close it up. And the documentary that we're not going to watch. Let's see here. Can we duplicate this? Maybe we should all watch this. Like, I'm going to watch this on my own time. Yeah, right here. The Right's Fight to Make America a Christian Nation. I really kind of wanted to watch this today. This is CBSN, but I figured out that it's owned by Paramount and will probably get cucked if I play it. But it's about 28 minutes. The Right's Fight to Make America a Christian Nation. I think I'm going to check this out maybe after the podcast today. Little boy fell almost 6 miles in 43 seconds before detonating at an altitude of 2,000 feet. The bomb exploded with the force of more than 15,000 tons of TNT directly over a surgical clinic 500 feet from the AOI bridge. Less than 2% of the bomb's uranium achieved fission, but the resulting reaction engulfed the city in a blinding flash of heat and light. Now, how would they know that? Less than 2% of the bomb's uranium achieved fission? I'm not really sure how they would know that. The temperature at ground level reached 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit in less than a second. The bomb vaporized people half a mile away from ground zero. Bronze statues melted, roof tiles fused together, and the exposed skin of people miles away burned from the intense infrared energy unleashed. At least 80,000 people died instantly. All right. That's enough for the atomic bomb. So, if heaven is real, what do you do there for eternity? Wouldn't you get bored? You know, I like to say what the Mormons believe. The Mormons believe that we're going to become gods of our own universe. Like, we're all going to be trained to rule over our own universe or our own planet. And I would just say that's not what I believe. But I think that God has some interesting activities planned for us for the rest of eternity. The idea that, you know, heaven's going to be boring, I highly doubt it. I'm pretty sure we're not going to sleep anymore, which sounds based. I told you guys I don't really like to sleep anymore. Sounds like, yeah, there's never going to be night. There will not be night in heaven. So that tells me that we're not going to sleep. Maybe we can take cozy naps sometimes. I just wouldn't worry about it, man. When I was like sick with COVID and I thought I was maybe going to die, it was creeping me out. It was like, man, I don't know. I don't know about heaven. Like, I wanted to have a good time in this world, but I would just rest assured that you were going to be happy in heaven. No nighttime vibes, though? I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe you could go to like a night room or something. We'll figure it out. Let's go. President speaks on prayer banning in U.S. schools, 1962. JFK hype.
President Kennedy makes news on many fronts in his weekly press conference. To reporters crowding the State Department auditorium, he restates America's stand against any Red China threat to Quemoy and Matsu Islands. He discusses his trade expansion and Medicare programs. Asked his opinion of the Supreme Court decision banning prayer in schools, the president says,
Well, I haven't seen the measures in the Congress, and you'd have to make a determination of what the language was and what the effect it would have on the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has made a judgment. A good many people obviously will disagree with it. Others will agree with it. But I think that it is important for us, if we're going to maintain our constitutional principle, that we support Supreme Court decisions even when we may not agree with them. In addition, we have in this case a very easy remedy, and that is to pray ourselves. And I would think that it would be a welcome reminder to every American family that we can pray a good deal more at home, we can attend our churches with a good deal more fidelity, and we can make the true meaning of prayer much more important in the lives of all of our children. That power is very much open to us. And I would hope that as a result of this decision that all American parents will intensify their efforts at home.
No more praying in schools, 1962 under Kennedy. And his take on it was, hopefully, you know, parents will take it up at home, more prayer at home. Sounds like maybe he didn't agree with it on paper, but he supports the system, you know. He supports the decisions of the Supreme Court. For me, it's like, nope. It's like, oh, yeah, well, you know, I'm bummed that we can't pray in schools, but democracy, it's so important that we're able to have these kind of decisions. Nope. No, it's not. Not important. What's important is the Bible. Bible over the Constitution. This is like central to what this platform is about. The world is declaring war on the Bible, if you ask me, and it's problems, guys. Big problems. Damn right, prayer should be an individual activity, or if there is a congregation, it should be a choice. No one should be forced against their will to adhere to any religion or lack thereof. As a Christian conservative, I totally agree. If you don't want to pray, don't join in it. I just want to live somewhere where everybody's Christians, bro. Because I can tell you guys, as somebody who's had a lot of problems with a lot of different people, I can only really trust Christians at this point, for the most part. You know, I know that a part of Christian morals, like a real practicing Christian, there's some pressure on you to not gossip. There's some pressure on you to not judge. There's pressure on you to forgive. I need that. I need people who are willing to forgive. I need people who try to avoid judgment. I need those kind of people, dude. I'm tired of that, like, secular brand of just, like, gossip, cancel culture, no forgiveness once you mess up once. You know, I told a bunch of people on Facebook to go fuck themselves, and it's like, I think I deserve a second chance. You guys aren't going to give me a second chance because you didn't like me to begin with, and that's, you know. I've seen the cruelty of people who are not guided by God's rules. Great man with a common sense approach to prayer. Common sense approach, cringe. This didn't age well. Just look at this generation. Oh, look at all the triggered comments here. I'm Gen Z and I feel completely alone in my worldview. It's sad. Based. What about this generation specifically has you upset at it? Everyone is divided. Prayer brings unification, makes people feel loved, and creates a strong foundation, even for non-believers. Based. Is this girl hot? Yeah, she kind of looks like a cutie, dude. What's good, Melissa? I understand where you're coming from, but to me it doesn't seem so cut and dry. We have two sets of prayer now. Those who use it as unifying force, and those who use it as a sword to cut down their opposition at every turn. I see no problem there. It created a fracture within the church, and as a former believer myself, I'm simultaneously glad I'm no longer taking part in either side of that, but also saddened by the fact that it's gotten as bad as it is. Worst part is now we're seeing legislators and even the Supreme Court trying their damnedest to mandate religion and other facets of life. No other developed nation seems to have this problem. People should have the freedom to choose. Freedom to choose. Dude, this is all. That's what it comes down to. Like, we are taught to put liberal enlightenment values above everything. I put the Bible above people's freedom to choose. That's more important to me. But that's just me. How does prayer bring about unification when I and many others are non-religious? I don't fucking care. Get out. Or we'll get out or something. Prayer in public schools alienates non-religious folk. I don't care. I don't care, dude. I'm sorry. I don't really care about secular people anymore. Maybe I'm an asshole. That's fine. I'm tired of but what about the secular people? What about this? What about my freedom for everybody to not? What about my 4 freedoms? Freedom to worship God however you want. We're in a country where people don't get along. We're in a country where we're not really on the same team anymore. That's what it amounts to. What part doesn't bring unification? When young children and teachers get together in a circle and hold hands, it's a safe space and brings peace. Do you not get the simple fact that some kids are not Christian or religious at all? Well, they're just kids. They didn't really... you should make your kids religious. Who is mandating and enforcing religion on others? Please explain. Bringing prayer into public, federally funded schools is favoring religion, usually one religion over others. Yeah, I mean, this is the fruits of the libertarian country. This is the fruits of liberalism. This is the fruits of libertarianism. This is just the fruits, bro. Christians are getting outvoted at this point. We're getting outvoted. I do not want to live in a country amongst other religions. I really don't. Not to rile any believers, but when the 10 Commandments left U.S. schools, the curve of morality and crime became our neighbor. So you're saying that it is up to schools to teach morality, not parents at home? Well, I think schools should teach morality. Why not? But when those same schools want to teach safe sex education, birth control, etc., many of these same parents say that those should be up to the parents, not the school. It's very simple. Conservative parents want their kids to be taught things they agree with and be quiet to their kids about things they disagree with. Nothing wrong with prayer. It just shouldn't be forced, especially one type of prayer. Christian prayer in all students. You can't favor one religion over. You can't favor one religion over others. That's so unbelievably cringe, dude. When people are trying to say, this country wasn't founded on Christianity, well, it sure as shit wasn't founded on Islam. I'll tell you that much. Pray in private or shut up. This was my old perception. Pray whenever, but a friendly suggestion is to pray with the heart. That's all. Peace, love, and light. Oh, wow, this guy changed his perspective 4 months later. That's kind of cool. You should watch the Project Veritas last video with a school principal caught on tape saying, don't hire Christians. Interesting. Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, the system is basically anti-Christian at this point. Activist pushes to ban Bibles from Florida schools. This is this year, April 27th.
Starting July 1st, a new law goes into effect for Florida schools. It will ban books and learning materials that discuss pornographic or, quote, inappropriate content for kids. Well, an activist from Boca Raton is already testing that law when it comes to one very famous book, the Bible, which has several mentions of things like incest as well as sexual assault. If you want to see for yourself, you can look up these specific verses in the Bible. It's passages like those that have opponents of the new law calling for schools to ban the Bible.
This is clearly a very narrow interpretation of the new law. NBC2's Claire Lavazorio investigates whether there's any traction to the argument to ban the good book in local school districts.
Florida rejected 54 math books for its public schools, saying they talk about critical race theory. Now, one activist wants to add another book to that pile.
A Bible ban is brewing in the state of Florida.
You know, it should be a parent's choice, in my eyes.
School districts across the state are reviewing textbooks children will use in the fall. Now the Bible is the latest up for debate, and parents are speaking their mind.
You might as well ban the Bible. To me, it's the same thing. I believe that the Bible should be there for a choice, whether they want to read it or not.
The Bible battle started with this letter that activist Chaz Stevens sent to 62 school districts across the state, including Lee County. The letter goes as far as for asking for the banishment of any book that references the Bible. Many parents believe that crosses the line.
We're doing them a disservice when we're taking out certain things.
I think it's awful. I think they're just changing too much of the past now.
In any case, when it comes to children or students and books and Bibles, it needs to be a choice.
A spokesperson for the district says there aren't any Bibles in school libraries.
I agree with that soccer mom chick, dude. It's like, you don't need to shove. I mean, yeah, I can understand not shoving the Bible down everybody's throat in a modern day public school, but like to not allow Bibles to be there, like, you know what, dude? I don't really want my kids being anywhere where Bibles aren't allowed. I don't want to be anywhere where Bibles aren't allowed. I don't really want to live in a country where there's places where Bibles aren't allowed, man. I'm just, I better go smoke some weed today before War Stoic comes out. I want war, baby. It's just too much, dude.
But there are some Bible-related materials in the schools. In Lee County, Claire Lavazorio, NBC2.
May God be with you all in these hard and confusing times. Thumbs up. I thought Bibles were already banned in all schools because I had a Bible in my high school. They were bitching at me about it. The world needs King Yeshua Jesus Christ. Amen. The Bible is the word of God Almighty. It's full of lessons that people need to learn so that we don't make the same mistakes. Even Moses made a mistake. He doubted God and was not allowed to go into the promised land. We need to read the history lessons and learn from them. And I don't even want to read this reply, but I will. The Bible is a collection of vulnerable but still rather primitive. Yep. I didn't want to read that, and I did anyway. Now I learn my mistake. I fucking hate atheists, dude. I'm not supposed to. But I've had kind of a rough life, guys. And I know a lot of you have too. Maybe some of y'all have had harder lives than me. I do not like people who are not guided by God's morals. You just fuck up too much. You blow it too much. And I've already had some hard times, and I don't really need people to, like, blow it in terms of how they handle me. They need to be like, okay, wait a second. God wants me to forgive people, so I'm going to forgive, Reform Stoic. God wants me to not judge people, so I'm not going to be so harsh, Judge and Reform Stoic. I need those kind of people in my life. I need the kind of people who listen to God's rules, man. Because when you're not molded by the rules that God set for you, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't really want you around. Indoctrination takes the Bible out of context. It turns God into a loving, all-powerful, merciful God when, according to the Bible, he has more in common with the devil. Yeah, see, I don't like people like that, dude. In my professional opinion, if public schools are going to allow the Holy Bible in their libraries, there should be options to other Bibles as well. According to the First Amendment, there should not be actions that unduly favor one religion over the first fucking. I hate it. I hate it, dude. Equality. Everybody's religion is welcome. Like, that's not how you build a nation. That's a weak nation. Let's all just pick our own LARP. It's not a nation, dude. It's a joke. That's why our country is what it is today, because of those kind of values. It's a joke, dude. This country's collapsing because of those kind of values. I mean, as a non-religious person, I wouldn't necessarily ban the Bible or any religious text from schools. I just think they should at least teach those topics to those who are affiliated with the belief system or religion. Or in that case, that's what weekends are for, when you have time to exercise that on Saturdays and Sundays. Fair enough. Bibles are already banned from schools. You include one Bible, you have to include them all. Separation of church and state is a good thing. No, it's fucking not. I hate liberal values, dude. I hate liberal values. I wouldn't mind going to war with you guys, dude, and taking this country for Christians. Really. I hate your values. Your values ruin this country. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that everyone may receive the things done in his body, according to that he hath done. All right. Enough of this comment section. Public schools are secular religious institutions indoctrinating kids with anti-Christian views. Based.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons people are interested in homeschooling. And by the way, what we're doing here at the ARC this week, we call it a homeschool experience. So it's not like a normal conference. We want them to really experience some great teaching, workshops, labs, and so on, as well as keynotes and all sorts of other interesting experiences. But one of the reasons that I believe people are so interested in homeschooling is obviously what's happening in the culture. And people see the culture collapsing from a Christian perspective. They realize more and more that when you send your kids to public schools, you're sending them to a religious institution because there is no neutral position. And so it's really the religion of secular humanism that they're being indoctrinated in. It's an anti-Christian religion. But I would hope that the main reason that people would want to homeschool is that they recognize they need to teach as Christians their children a true biblical worldview starting from God's word, not just trying to add God to secular teaching, but teach them a truly biblical worldview. And based upon what Scripture says about the priority of children in regard to education, that we are to raise them up to be filled with salt so that they can be salt out there. You can't throw them to the world and let them be filled with contamination before they got that salt in them. You can't be salt till you have it. It's a biblical principle. So I would hope that their main reason would be because of what the Bible says about us as Christians, the priority of education, the most important thing in the entire universe for anyone is that they know Christ. I mean, there's nothing more important than that because that's your eternity. And so that should be the priority. But I think, because of what's happening in the culture and in the secular education system, more and more people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, there's something dreadfully wrong here.
You want to know what's crazy, guys? Is I wasn't always a Christian, and I always detected this very nasty nature in certain kind of people. And as I grew up, they all ended up being disgusting atheists. As I became who I am now, those people that I already detected just toxic inside of, none of them are Christians, and they all have nasty, wicked opinions on Christianity. I can just tell you this, man. A lot of you atheists out there scratching your head, it's like, come on, man. What's your problem ultimately with us? You guys do not have morals. What do atheists say a lot of the time? Those kind of morals are just common sense. Nothing's common sense. The term common sense is just not, it's not something you say in philosophical circles. It's not something you say in intellectual circles. I don't really think there's such a thing as common sense. You have to derive your morals from somewhere. If you just do whatever you think, it's like, well, I'm just going to do whatever I think is moral. Okay, well, that's not common sense. That's you doing whatever you want. That's you doing whatever you think is best. You're not guided by any higher set of rules. And as a result, people who do not follow godly morals, you just end up treating people like garbage. You just end up living in a way that's terrible. And it's to a point where all these people in my hometown who want to cancel me, you guys have no God. Okay? You are a bunch of wicked heretics who are doomed for eternal hellfire. And I'm tired of your shit. This idea that I did something wrong and you need to pay. You need to pay. You've done wrong. You've done wrong. You're canceled. God is going to toss you into the lake of fire. You are not anyone to judge me, and I would suggest that you listen to some of the things I'm saying, because I'm telling you to listen to what God's saying, and you need to figure it out, dude. You need to figure it out. I'm upset. We decided to homeschool as much about the weak curriculum in our schools as for the anti-American CRT deviant behavior promotion. Thank you, Mr. Ham. Our kids need a biblical worldview taught every day, not just Sunday. Mr. Ham. That's what I'm becoming right now, dude. I'm going ham. That's something I say sometimes. I'm going ham. When you're going ham, it means you're wilding out, dude. You're wilding out. I'm Mr. fucking Ham right now, dude. I'm about to become Mr. Ham. I'm going ham. I'm Mr. Ham, baby. Because big government-run schools are far too dangerous, and we are learning at third-world levels. Instead, have smaller private-run schools that are easier to secure and better for learning, way safer. Why shouldn't I cheat and steal without God? I just wouldn't. Exactly. It's cringe. Jesus wouldn't teach much of the Bible. He would teach his beliefs of God and go within and pray alone for hours. No, dude, that's not true. Jesus wasn't Bible thumping around. He taught from the God, the Father within him. Well, he's the Son of God, though. And he said he came to fulfill he came to fulfill prophecy from Scripture. He spoke of the blood of Abraham, Old Testament. I'm actively looking into this. Gather Round is looking promising. It doesn't offer math, so I'm also looking into reading eggs, fast phonics, and or math seeds. Okay, so he's a homeschool guy. Canada needs more Christian schools like this. Real. Let's ham it. As the Christian right is declining, they become hard-edged, says writer. Okay, and then this is our last segment for today.
So, Michelle...
you know what, dude? Most people like you, I just ignore. Just another dude. But I'll go ahead and answer your question. No, I do not think that God hates incels. They define incel as someone who doesn't fornicate every 6 months. Well, fornication is a sin. So it's a completely Brave New World tier term. It's absolutely ridiculous. No, God doesn't hate people who don't partake in sinful fornication. That's absolutely ridiculous. If anything, God loves incels more than fornicators. It just shows where you're coming from, dude. Complete low IQ, Dunning-Kruger moron who's not smart enough to clean my shoes.
So, Michelle, you write about how the Christian right is in decline, and you say it's taking America with it. You quote the chief executive of the Public Religion Research Institute about how white evangelicals once saw themselves as the owners of mainstream American culture and morality and values. Now they're just...
Here we go, everybody. Oh, boy. I'll bet she's got some real lessons for us. I wonder what her values are. I wonder what her take is. I wonder what she has to say about this. I mean, does anybody even need to fucking... I think we all know what she has to say. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I judged a book by its cover. Let's see.
Just another subculture. And Michelle, you write in part this, From this fact derives much of our country's cultural conflict. It helps explain not just the rise of Donald Trump, but also the growth of QAnon and even the escalating conflagration over critical race theory. It's hard to overstate the strength of this feeling among white evangelicals in particular.
Thank you, Michelle Goldberg. Thank you, Michelle Goldberg. Oh, yeah, the Christian right is in decline, and it's taking America with it. Yeah, so Christians are destroying America. Thank you, Michelle Goldberg. Goldberg.
America being a white Christian country. The feeling that it's slipping away has created an atmosphere of rage, resentment, and paranoia.
Yeah, you know, Michelle, so again, I said as a Southern Baptist, we have a lot of Protestants, white Protestants, that went through the 1960s. We grew up with our parents feeling like they'd been besieged by all the radical images that were coming across television, Chicago 68, Woodstock, fill in the blanks. But at the same time, you would go to church on Sunday. It was mainstream, and evangelicals, the churches were growing, and we always would look at sort of like the mainline Protestant denominations and say, well, their numbers aren't growing as much because it's lukewarm. But you look at the numbers that you cite here and other numbers, and you look at the decline in the number of people who self-identify as evangelicals now, and it really is a pretty rapid decline. And I've got to believe in large part because it has become so affiliated with politics, and particularly Donald Trump, a very divisive figure, especially for younger Americans.
Well, so this sort of downward slope precedes Donald Trump, and I think that there's a chicken and egg dynamic, right? It's sort of symbiotic. You had evangelicals were losing the younger generation. I wrote a book about the religious right in 2006 at a time when they were feeling triumphant. They had one of their own in the White House. Their churches were, sort of bursting and vibrant. They, were sort of boast that they were going to outbreed godless liberals. And then what you saw is that the younger generation, that they rose up thinking that this generation was going to march through our institutions and take them over. Some of them stuck to that path, but many of them didn't. And they stopped being able to win over new converts. It was around 2013 that for the first time, the religious nuns, the people with no religious affiliation, became the single largest religious group in the United States. And last year, and this has got to really sting for evangelicals, mainline Protestants became a bigger proportion of the population than white evangelicals. And so I think there's two things happening. They're declining. As they decline, they become more hard-edged. They become more attracted to these really angry reactionary politics. And then that angry reactionary politics leads them to shrink more and repels young people even more.
Now, what's so interesting is when I first got into Congress in '95, I'd have a lot of young people come work for me. The religious right helped me get elected in '94. In '95, they'd come, and I'd always ask the question, well, why do you want to work in a congressman's office? What do you want to do in Capitol Hill? And you would get a lot of, if they were from evangelical churches, you would get a lot of traditional, it'd be about abortion, it would be about family, it would be about the sort of things that you would expect in 1995. By the time
I really just hate her face, dude. Is there something wrong with me? I feel like she's got this resting, smug smile. Oh man, I just really don't like her face at all, dude.
I left in 2001, they were still coming in. But a lot of them, and I've been telling this story for years, a lot of them would come in Birkenstocks, and it was about AIDS in Africa. It was about hunger. It was about global poverty. And I would go into church groups and I would say, you want to know what the future of your church is? And then I would explain this transformation over 6 years. And you also saw it with George W. Bush, this obsession with doing something to save the lives of people in Africa, AIDS in Africa. There was a very evangelical issue, something that evangelicals really focused on. And you had that change. So, of course, I guess that's why I'm not so.
Well, when Christ was talking about the mustard seed, he was referring to the mustard seed being the smallest of seeds, and that it produces a much larger, it grows big. It starts as a very small seed, and then it grows into something much bigger. That's what the mustard seed was about.
Surprised that this hard edge is turning off so many younger Americans who might be naturally joining the church.
Right. I think you had a lot of evangelicals who wanted to do something about global poverty, who were not so attracted to this hard-edged anti-gay message, who were, like a lot of young people, were idealistic. And something interesting I've seen in response to my article, I've seen some threads online from people who actually were reared in these evangelical homeschooling communities that really were preparing people to sort of go on this long march through the institutions. And some of the young people who've broken away from that path, in some ways it was their very rigorous homeschooling education that gave them the tools to look at this Christian nationalist theology, to look at these anti-rationalist and often just quite, kind of sadistic politics, and to say that, and to be able to turn their back on it, to be able to get some distance on it.
Yeah. All right, Michelle Goldberg, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being with us. Please come back soon. And, you know, Mika, even in 2005, when we were going over, our church was going over every day to Mississippi and Louisiana for aid and relief. After Hurricane Katrina, yep. I would go on TV every night and complain about the fact that the government wasn't there, that FEMA wasn't there, that the feds weren't there, that nobody seemed to be there, other than a lot of evangelical relief organizations, and there were young evangelicals all over the region, providing food, providing water. There were some people from different evangelical universities. Pat Robertson's university were down there as well. That was actually a large growing part of that evangelical movement, and what George W. Bush did, and you look at like Financial Times estimates that he saved perhaps 13 million lives in Africa, because that's right, was the obsession for so many evangelicals. It's sad to see how that's changed over the past decade.
They're not conservative either.
I personally think we should give atheists a shot to go have their smug, like, why don't you guys go have an atheist society? Like, let's I keep saying let's create a Christian society. I mean, atheists is like, oh my God, can you imagine if we didn't have religion? Can you imagine, like, we'd be living in Star Wars, we'd be living in Star Trek, we'd be living in the Jetsons. Let's give it to them. You guys go start your new atheist nation. I want to see it. I want to see you guys with your atheist nation. You know, whatever's the most convenient for you. If you want Christians to go get their own land, if you want your own land, like, let's just go send all the atheists to atheist land, and let's just see how it works out, dude, okay? A lot of white nationalists, and I'm trying to outline somebody else's belief here. I don't want to trigger the hate speech or anything, okay? There's people that suggest that minorities want to live around white people. Well, I'm not interested in that. I think that unconsciously atheists want to live around Christians. And I think that atheists, you should go have your own country. You should go have your own place. Let's see how it works out. Let's see how it works out. I want to see it. Anyway, guys, I'm pumped up. How about that? We had a full 2-hour podcast today. You know, I feel like if we didn't go off on lots of tangents and stuff, yeah, because I didn't have quite as much material for us to go over today, but it worked out. Very passionate stream today. There may be such prevalent phobia of snakes and spiders due to our ancestors having trouble with them in the past. Maybe you have a genetically wired hatred of that lady's face. Enough said. The question should be, does the absence of evidence for any God undermine religion? But there's not absence of evidence for any God. That's stupid. The Bible is evidence. The Bible is much greater evidence than any sort of evidence. See, you put a rock under a microscope and they're like, oh, yep, that's proof that the earth is billions and billions and billions of years old. No, we have testimonies. We have testimonies written from people that's much more valuable than looking at a rock under a microscope, dude. I'm sorry that you're too stupid to understand that, but yeah. Carbon dating something and then speculating, oh, this bone, according to carbon dating, is from 850 millions of years ago. They probably did this. They probably did that. It was probably like this. It was probably like that. This bone was probably this. It was probably that. Well, it's not probably anything. We can take the writings from people of the time and say, oh, this is the way it was, because this is the way it was written. It's much more valuable than looking at anything under a microscope. But you'll never understand that. That's why you're a fucking idiot. All right, God bless you guys. I'm outie. I appreciate y'all. Keep on keeping on. You know, I'm going to pray for everybody real quick. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, I ask that you help me to calm down. I ask that you help my viewers to calm down. I ask that you help all of us to relax, that you help all of us to get through September, which I do believe will be trying times. I believe will be testing times. I ask that you give us strength to endure. I ask that you give us inertia to not be easily moved by the things our enemies say when they're trying to harm us, when they're trying to get under our skin, when they're trying to irritate us. I ask that you give us the strength and the patience to endure through this upcoming month, and that you give us the insight and intellect necessary to make the best decisions moving forward with our lives. Please protect us from danger, and please help us to be at peace and to be filled with joy in your word. Thank you, God. I'm sorry for my sins. I apologize on the behalf of the sins of my audience, and I thank you for everything you've done in my life and all of our lives. Thank you, God. I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you, guys. God bless, and I will probably see